Inner Quest explores various pathways through which you can connect with the infinite wisdom of the universe and apply it to personal, professional, and spiritual growth. This program, featuring accomplished practitioners, educators, and authors, is provided by Infinity Foundation, an innovative center for holistic studies and research. We invite you to share this journey with us.
Hello, welcome to Inner Quest. My name is Jay Stone, your host for today, and our guest is Dianne Bischoff. James, did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes, you did.
All right, well, let me tell you a little bit about Dianne. Dianne is a life reboot specialist and motivational speaker. Dianne encourages audiences to create a reality that is prosperous, deliberate, and meaningful. She's the author of an award-winning book, and I'm going to hold it up here, The Real Brass Ring, and later I'm going to ask you to define the brass ring and if that changes for people. And subtitled, Change Your Life Course Now. And you're also a SAG actor, marketing consultant, and founder of Life. How do you pronounce that?
Live Your Everything.
Live Your Everything,
Yes.
huh? Wow. So there's kind of a connection to the brass ring, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
All right. Well, let's start how this all began. What events in your life led you to discover that you were about to miss your real brass ring?
Well, it all started on my 38th birthday. I gave myself a gift.
Just last year?
Oh, too sweet. Actually, a few years ago, more than 10 years ago, I thought I'd go see this world-renowned psychic. At the time, actually, she was just kind of starting up. It was Sonia Choquette.
Okay, she's a friend of Infinity.
Yes, yes. And she's been, I think, coming to Infinity for many years and producing workshops. But when I first met her, I had just heard that she was a very wonderful psychic, and it was just kind of a fun thing. And so I went to see her down in Chicago. She had her house, and she was actually seeing people in her home at the time. And I sat down thinking she was going to tell me I was kind of the cat's meow because I had a marketing business in Chicago. It was very successful. I had kind of a mini mansion across from the lake, and I had all the trappings of the North Shore. And I really thought she was going to tell me that I was doing great. I was on track. But instead, she, for one whole hour, Jay, she pretty much undressed me. She said, everything about your life is wrong. There is nothing about you that is authentic. She said, you're clinically depressed, you're an unlit Christmas tree and not a single bulb is firing. And I'm here to tell you, if you don't hurry up and grab at the real brass ring, that's the title, that it's going to be too late.
She used those exact words?
She said, if you don't get that real brass ring, it's going to be too late. And I was just floored. I really didn't know what she was talking about at the time, but she said, you're supposed to be this actor, a writer, a healer, a teacher, and I wasn't doing any of it. So I was overwhelmed, freaking out, and I walked to my car. It was February in Chicago, and it was freezing, and I sat in my car and cried my eyes out for about 30 minutes because I couldn't imagine that I could almost be 40 years old and have done everything wrong.
Did you get a recording of that session by any chance? It'd be kind of interesting to re-listen to that.
I did not. At the time, it was when we had the big tape recorders. Remember those giant
Yeah.
with the cassette tapes? So she was not recording, and we didn't have our iPhones. So I didn't at the time, but I had seen her about a year or two later, and I did get a quick recording then. She kind of recapped some of it.
And so, in your book, do you define what the real brass ring is?
Yes, I do. The real brass ring, in a nutshell, is about identifying any opportunity that you could possibly find that will help you reach full authenticity. Whatever, no matter how old you are, no matter what stage of life you're in or what you're involved in, she told me that I had to do a mega reboot. It wasn't just, oh, get a new job, or maybe your relationship is stale, or perhaps you should move. She told me everything about my life was wrong. And at the time, I was like 190 pounds. I was clinically depressed, which she called me out on. And
were you diagnosed and treated at that point?
Well, she said that I was chronically depressed, but I hadn't told anybody that I was popping Prozac every day just to kind of get up and get going. I was pretty much emotionally a wreck. But on the outside, I had all the stuff that looked like it was pretty good. So that, American dream that everybody wanted, I was going after it with full force. But as it turned out, on the inside, it wasn't working out too well.
And so what was driving you to go after the American dream instead of your own dream?
I was programmed. I felt like growing up, it was always about how much money can you get? Can you get a big education? So I went to Northwestern. I have a master's degree from Northwestern. And can you drive the fastest car, the best car, get the latest in electronics, always have the cutest shoes, and whatever else
So
was
everything
going on.
was external trappings.
Everything was. And my father was ex-military, CFO of a big company in Chicago. So that's what we were supposed to do. So I was like a soldier. I'm like, yes, sir. We're going to go get it, and off I marched off, and I did all that stuff. And there I was also told, you have to have kids, and you have to work for them 24/7, and get as many as you can, and also be that, like, helicopter parent. So you're constantly in everybody's face and doing everything so that it's never about self, it's always about others.
And has discovering your own brass ring changed your relationship with your children? Do you use that philosophy with your children today?
I absolutely do. As part of the book, I went through a huge transformation in every aspect. Physical, I was physically a wreck, grossly overweight. I hadn't pursued anything that was close to a passion in 40 years, so I had to rediscover all that and figure that out. But the most important part is I put together 14 rules for happy living. And those are the rules that are throughout the book, but it also is the way that I not only live, but it's the rules that I help my children live by. And it brings you closer and closer to who you really are and living that way.
Do you want to talk about some of those rules now?
Yes, absolutely.
And you give workshops?
I do.
Are you going to be teaching at Infinity?
I am.
Okay.
Thursday.
Okay.
This Thursday.
Okay.
Yes. We have an intensive. We're going to do a 2-day workshop on Thursday, and then I'm going to expos throughout the country. I think we have about 8 expos this year.
So a 2-day workshop, how many hours are your workshops?
It's just 7 to 9.
Okay.
It's going to be Thursday night, and then we're going to do the follow-up the following week on Thursday.
Okay. So talk a little bit about those rules.
Well, one of the fundamental rules, and it's kind of the basics of metaphysics, what you think about, you bring about. So make sure it's good, and make sure it's the way you want it.
So the law of attraction.
Law of attraction. Anything you're
Okay.
paying attention to, thinking about, focusing on, really need to mind your words and mind your thoughts.
Well, and can you compare how you're using the law of attraction today before you met Sonia Choquette?
I think mindfully now and consciously, and with I'm hyper vigilant about how I attract now. I also had the wonderful good fortune of kind of playing around in the manifestation chemistry lab for the last 10 years. And I figured out a lot of formulas and rules that seem to work. And I have another book that I'm working on that is about those rules and the formulas of how to really get what you want with ease. As easy as breathing, as I like to say. So that's part of it. One of the other big rules that has been the most helpful for me in life is to speak your piece. I think I had been well trained to say what everybody wanted me to say, and to function as everyone wanted me to, and to not micro-truth and be in the moment and speaking with complete yes means yes, no means no.
Well, when you say speak your piece, though, sometimes what brings you peace really gets people angry and upset.
Very true. Very true. The second part of speak your piece is you don't get to control anybody else's response. So if you're saying something that may not be the most popular thing in the world, you're not always going to get a favorable response. But I was able to at least be authentic and then learn some of these really great tools like, sorry, that just doesn't work for me. And the more I was able to say that, people were amazingly responsive. And if you say, I can't come to the event, or I can't give more money to this, the donations or whatever you had to go to or do that you really didn't resonate or feel good to you, I finally was able to say and be really clean and really clear with my words. And that helped a tremendous amount, because then nothing builds up.
And so we've got at least 2 rules down. and law of attraction, speak the peace. What are some of the other rules?
One of the other rules that's been very helpful is manage your wave, because we're all beings of light. Nothing is straight and rigid. Everything is flowing and moving. And what I learned is that we have this beautiful wave going on. So you have this opportunity in any situation to grab the positive end of that stick, the wave, or maybe the negative end. And so I started to be very aware, and it was very helpful to always find an opportunity to make any situation turn out to be a positive aspect of that situation.
Now, in your book or workshop, do you do meditations or visualizations?
Absolutely, yes. That's a key part of it, because we always have the answers. The answers are inside. So the meditations and the visualizations always help us reach for what would the life I love look like.
And do you ever work one-on-one with people?
Yes, I do private consultation.
Okay.
I have private clients and help people with their life reboot, whether it be for physical or whether they're trying to find their passion or even have a healthier or more fulfilling relationship.
And how often do you recommend your clients or students practice meditation or visualization?
If possible, daily.
Mm-hmm.
I try to practice myself daily, and sometimes I do it before I go to bed, which means I might fall asleep. But I try to always recommend that you get very quiet and just in touch with yourself and allow some of the higher guides to actually reach you. And I find that's best when you're quiet, when you're meditating.
Good. And so you're a marketing specialist, is one of the many hats you wear. Do you ever just want to take companies and say, you got to reboot?
Most of the companies come to me because they need to reboot.
Okay, so they already acknowledged it.
Either it's a startup, or very often there's a company that has been going down a road and it's either turning on the other side of the curve, the growth curve. They're either going to the other side where they need either new opportunity, or they're just kind of stale and they need to be refreshed. So yes, I do help companies with that.
So do you feel like companies have a brass ring for the collective? Or better yet, could you apply the rules that you've set up for individuals to a company?
Yes. And part of it is some of the basics of not only speaking your piece. I found that with these companies, very often there's kind of the corporate veil. There's kind of a lot of things that aren't said, a lot of things that aren't spoken, people who aren't happy and aren't doing jobs that either feel right for them, but they're just kind of sticking it out. And I've been able to
working for a paycheck.
Working for the paycheck.
Not being authentic.
Right. And so calling people out on their truth, very often I help companies do that. And a lot of times just being a bit of an advisor on the side.
Well, what about, a man or a woman says, I'm married, I have kids at home, I have responsibilities, I can't reboot my life. I need a paycheck.
And those are the people that are typically unhappy, oftentimes depressed, oftentimes, I thought food was love. At 190 pounds, the only thing I loved was food. So I tried to use that twisted relationship for a long time, but those people oftentimes can find it either in physical health issues, pain, suffering. All of those are internal signals that things aren't going right. And very often they're trying to get your attention to say, that paycheck, guess what? It's not enough, there's more to life.
And then you end up spending the money on medical bills.
Exactly.
How were you able to conquer your addiction for food? How were you able to change your relationship with food? I think is a better way of stating it.
That one's very complicated for most people, as I'm sure you know, even in your business. It's I was very lucky. Sonia told me to do a few things. She gave me like 10 books to read. I'd already read like 600 self-help books, and she told me to read 10 more, so I did. And then she said, go to Hoffman Institute, which is in California, and I did. It took me about a year to follow those instructions, but I marched myself off, and for 7 days, I call it emotional rehab. They take all of the false messages, anything you heard from mom or dad that isn't true, that isn't you, they get rid of it, kind of scrub you clean, and you come back this bouncing new baby girl. And once I got back from Hoffman, I realized that food is nourishment. Food wasn't love. And I also found that acting was something I loved to do. And so I auditioned, baby steps, tiny little step. And I was working full time, but I made time to go audition for my first play, which was Oliver. And I was 190 pounds, and all those negative messages, oh, no one will ever cast you. Only skinny, tiny people get to, be in plays. But I auditioned, and I made it in, and I was townsperson 1. That was my first role.
What theater was it at?
It was when Glencoe had a community theater. The Glencoe Community Theater was around for years.
Start small.
Start small, but because of that, 30 pounds fell off.
What, and so the brass ring just doesn't have to do with money. It could do with one's personal health, diet, truth.
It has to do with, I call it the love it inventory. Anything that you love to do, anything that puts that light back in your eyes where you get excited and happy and you have that little spark, then you know that you're on track. And I recommend, especially with clients, you got to make this love it inventory. There's things we love to do. It could be as silly as putting your hands in the earth and just planting something, or woodworking, or playing the piano, or anything.
Going for a walk.
Going for a walk. I think the dog walks me, because I go outside and I get peaceful. So I realize it may benefit the dog, but I'm the one who's really getting a lot out of this here.
Yeah. And so what else do you do in your real brass ring workshop?
We do a lot of exercises that help people shred and not only shred the things that are blocking them, but very often I found that in these workshops, everything is sourced on lack. So these fears, the reason we aren't doing things that we love is because...
So the law of attraction, if you fear something not happening, by focusing on whatever it is you don't want to happen, you make it happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It just here's the object.
Yeah.
If you say, I don't want to get sick, the law of attraction here's, get sick. Got it, coming your way.
I don't have money to pay the bills, and so you're attracting a lack of money to pay the bills.
And here's no money. And a lot of the lack issues have to do with either I'm going to be rejected. What if I have nobody is my friend anymore? What if my family says you're a terrible person, we're not going to hang out with you? Or it could be lack of means. What if I do pursue that one thing that I love? Then I'm never going to be able to feed the kids. Because that was my fear. If I stop working in this marketing business full time, how are we going to put food on the table? How are we going to keep the mini mansion up?
So when you do the workshop, are people writing out?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then we do a lot of dyads. So a lot of partners work together where they can have the experience of working with someone they've never met, hopefully, and become very honest and clean with them in the exercises. So they're not only talking about really deep core issues in a very short period of time, but they get to experience some of their deepest heartfelt desires without having to think about it. Just make it authentic and real. And then we try to work with those and create plans so that you can do those very, very small steps that move you forward.
Okay. And obviously you're applying some of this law of attraction right now to promote your book. So once you learn and apply your rules, it's never ending. It's something that you can do the rest of your life.
Absolutely, especially in January. And
Yeah.
I call them the I want rules. And I just did mine actually, Jay, just last week. I feel like January is just such a fresh time. And I see what I've accomplished from the past year, check them off, feel very good and grateful for my accomplishments, and then totally reset them. And try to actually give them cute little captions, things that I know what it means, things that are personal for you that would help motivate you. And so we work on that also in the workshop and put these I want lists together so that people can work towards them.
Let's see. Which of the 14 pragmatic metaphysical rules have been the most helpful in rebooting your life? You mentioned a few. Is there any other ones you'd like to mention?
Another one is about managing your circle. There's your circle, the universe's circle, and then other people's circle. And I found for a lot of clients, very often they're in somebody else's camp, trying to either help somebody else out or always thinking about the other guy. And it's really important to remember that it's only our circle that we can focus on. So managing and focusing on what it is that you have responsibility for, which is yourself, your joy, your success, your accomplishments, and also remembering that we have so many days. And one of my big ahas after seeing Sonia, I started counting the days. I figured I had 11,000 days to straighten it out. I had to straighten out everything, but I had about 11,000 days to create this thing that she was talking about that didn't exist, and that wasn't that many days. And that's if I kind of wanted to wrap it up in my later years, towards 70s. So when you realize you have a limited amount of time, it's how you choose to spend it. And then, of course, one of the big parts of it is confronting what it is that's stopping you.
And what are some of the issues that people need to confront or that have revealed to you as students or clients? Of course, you keep confidentiality. Is there any kind of repeated themes that you hear?
Very often, I found that there's about 3 areas that they seem to be central. One, and it kind of focuses around fear and lack, but I'm going to put it in terms of lack. I find that there's lack of acceptance. Acceptance for self, whether that be rejection, whether it be friends, relationships, love, a love interest. Second one is a whole sense of lack of means. I won't be able to eat, I won't be able to afford this, I won't be able to do something, I won't be able to take a vacation. And then, the third one is,
It's interesting because the lack of acceptance, and then the second one is, well, I can't afford it, but they're not accepting of that.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. There's like a Buddhist saying, if you have nothing, you have nothing to lose, So,
right.
It's like, okay, and that's why monks, they had nothing. They begged for their food, and they didn't complain about it.
But they have the richness.
Yes.
Richness of life.
Yes.
And I feel like we're moving into that this year. This is a year of empowerment, and seeing so many people, especially since the recession, especially with clients where they had the job, they worked for the paycheck, they were going to make it to retirement, right?
Yeah.
And it all stopped. Clients stopped, money stopped, jobs stopped, the big houses stopped.
So they were waiting to live until they retired, and then their dream fell apart.
Right. Instead of refiring now, wait till you retire, refire now.
Yeah.
Because it's never too late. And it's the simple things that seem to make other people and me, especially, things I've noticed, the simple things that make me happy. Spending those 15 minutes a day doing something you love. You don't have to quit your job. And oftentimes our life work may or may not be on the financial track. That's what I've found. Sometimes your life's work or your passion area could be something that has nothing to do with the money. Take being an actor, for example. I'm an actor in Chicago, but I do it because I love it. Because most of the actors I know who are very successful in Chicago make below poverty if they do it full time.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So if you're in this business, it's because it just hits your heart, It's the one thing that gets you excited.
Well, my nephew just is starting his second semester at New York University studying acting. So, the reality's hitting what school is going to cost and his chances of making a livelihood. But he's still doing it because it's who he is and what he wants to do. And I admire and respect him for that.
Oh, absolutely. And you should do it. But at the same time, I think there's a practical aspect of it, too, where I tell my kids, you can pursue singing, you can pursue acting, you can pursue fine arts, anything you want. But you also, at some point, do need to, kind of balance that out. Maybe there's some other things you want to do. And so they look at the full portfolio of what your skill set is and find ways to balance it.
Well, rabbis, they always had to learn a second trade because they couldn't rely on being a rabbi to support themselves. I don't know if that's still true today. Well, let's talk a little bit about you and maybe some of the lessons that have come from it. How did you manage your codependent part when you had a relationship with a manipulative alcoholic?
It's one of the best stories. People seem to like that story the best. I decided that the marriage was not functioning at a heart level and at a soul level, so I did get divorced and went out to single dating in Chicago, and went through a lot of great experiences, loved it, had a great time, but one of the individuals I attracted was an alcoholic. And what I learned is that his addiction was 50% heaven and 50% hell, in that he was the most loving, beautiful man I've ever met in my entire life, but he brought with him all of the dark side of life that I had never seen. You know, issues with the law, issues with, you know, lying and theft and cheating and the darkness, all of the parts of life that you see in the soap operas.
Yeah.
But not something you'd want to attract to yourself. And I went right into it, full force, put a nurse's uniform on, and I was right there trying to save the day. And I did that for about 9 months until I had a giant wake-up call, came to my senses, and decided that I was a world-class codependent, and that wasn't going to continue. So I learned my lesson, which is if you learn your lessons, the quicker you learn them, the better, because then they can go away and they don't have to repeat.
Okay. And so what is the lesson for that your students or your clients can learn from you, or the lessons that you teach from that?
Come clean with yourself. When you see a lesson coming forward, it's very important to call it out and identify it. A lot of people that I speak with, they'll share and say, I just did this the last 5 times. You know, this is the same kind of guy, or this is the same kind of job, or this is the same kind of girlfriend that I pulled in.
Repetitive
it's
mistakes.
The repetitive. And the lesson is right in front of you, but it's confronting the fear. The reason that we keep going with the same type of, let's say, friendship or girlfriend relationship, or even just platonic relationship, they're comfortable, but they haven't looked at what you're afraid of. Because guess what? If I get rid of it, I might be alone. If I'm alone, guess what? It's okay. It's okay to be alone. So I think it's that tremendous fear that is behind all this that we try to help people excavate.
Do you ever have married couples attracted to your work?
Yes, actually. It's been wonderful. A lot of the expos in particular, we're finding a lot of couples are coming together, enlightened couples that want to work together.
And so how could they apply, you know, I could assume each man or woman, or man, woman, applies his or her own lesson. But how do you sit down and work it out with another person?
That's a fabulous question. The very best practice for a couple is micro-truthing. In the moment, calling out how you feel, expressing it completely without putting it on the other person. It's all about when this happened, or somebody said something, or this experience this, I felt this way, and that made me feel either scared or upset. And when you go through those kind of exercises, the other person can hear it. But the nice thing is, in a relationship, it doesn't build up. So I practice this not only at home with the kids, but in my relationship, and we keep, there's no lid to put on anything, because I think the emotional energy never builds up, because you feel fully expressed, heard, and understood. And that's one of the key things I think that relationships can benefit from.
Well, it's so wonderful that your children are learning it before they leave home, so they're less likely to carry baggage with them as adults. Exactly. I hate to do this to you, but we're out of time.
Oh.
For more information about Dianne Bischoff, James, stay tuned to the credits at the end. For more information about Inner Quest, Infinity Foundation, stay tuned to the credits at the end. Until next time, wish you good health, good spirits, and good fortune. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
For more information about this show, our guests, Infinity Foundation, or any of our other programs, please visit our website, infinityfoundation.org, or call us at 847-831-8828.